Hey there guys, Outlaw Dolphin here, and I am just bringing you a quick news update. For Honor, Ubisoft have released a trailer for an entirely new faction, 4 new heroes, and a new gameplay, a new game type within For Honor called Breach, which I'm going to bring you my little notes and details all about, because the heroes caught my attention because they all seem to be of a Chinese origin, which luckily for you I actually know little things about. If you have watched the movies which came out fairly recently, if you watched Matt Damon's The Wall, and there was a film that came out before that, a series of films called Red Cliff, which was loosely based off the Dynasty Warriors games, which came out years before that, I think still do. So yeah, the faction I believe is purely Asian based. I'm putting the names of the new heroes in the trailer, as you can see here. We have the Jiang Jun, the Shaolin, the Nuxia, and the Tiandi. I have little notes on them here. Brief notes just on how I think they're going to be utilized, how they're going to feel, how they're going to fight. So the Jiang Jun, which I believe is going to be a counterattack similar to that of the Nobushi / Lawbringer / Raider, so that you can sort of get an idea. If you try it, you're going to find it may be completely different to those. I believe it's going to be a sort of hybrid of all three. The weapons that they use I'll talk about after I've briefly spoken about them. So then we have the Shaolin, which uses a staff type, which uses a staff-based weapon, which is something that I believe is going to be that of a disabler, sort of a Valkyrie gladiator type, mid-range, probably going to prosper in getting in close. It'll be interesting to see if the warrior utilizes both ends of the staff and not just one. Sort of like how the Valkyrie can utilize both sides of her spear, but obviously this will be a two-handed staff. There's no shield on this Shaolin. Then we have the Nuxia, which I believe is going to be the strictly female-based, which I believe, in retrospect, the Jiang Jun I believe will be the strict male-base. But the Nuxia, most likely it's going to be your assassin, probably a counter to the shaman for its dual wielding. And that's probably going to be a mid to long range, and I'll tell you why I think that, just based on the weapons that she's using. Then we have the Tiandi, which is going to probably be your vanguard, probably the go-to for this, similar to the knight, similar to the raider, similar to the kensei, that type of a deal. So yeah, he may fight similar to a centurion, sort of short range, just based on the weapon that he's using. He's one-handed, he has a fist free, so I imagine there are going to be martial arts, CQC style fight that's probably going to be in all of these. So yeah, this is a confirmed brand new faction for all 4. So I think the Tiandi is your vanguard, the Jiang Jun is your heavy, the Shaolin is sort of going to be your hybrid, and then your Nuxia will be the assassin. Okay, so the weapons for all of these now, if we look at the Tiandi first, he is using a short-range saber, which is known as a Dao, D-A-O. This is a slashing type weapon. So the idea that he's probably going to be fast, similar to that of an Orochi, but maybe without the piercing moves. Plus the idea of the Dao is short range. This is why I believe he's going to have a fist free used for grabbing, maybe punching, but in a style that you don't see for the Centurion. Maybe, I do believe there's going to be some disabling involved for him as well. For the Jiang Jun, now, the reason why I think that this is going to be a sort of Lawbringer Nobushi Raider / fighter is because he's using a weapon known as a Guan Dao, which is comparable to the Naginata that the Nobushi uses. It's also known for having notches on the blade, which you can see in the trailer. which is on the back side of the blade. The blade consists of heavy materials with a spike at the back as a notch for catching opponents' weapons. This is where it gets a little bit interesting for the Shaolin, because he's using a staff. Now the staff is known as a gun, G-U-N. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It could be gun, it could be gun, but it has many variants in length. So a bang is a very short staff, probably one-handed. Then the gun is what I think we're seeing here, is kind of two-handed, sort of longer, but not outrageously long. But then there is a Chang gun, which is very, very long, which is almost twice the height of a Shaolin monk. That's why I don't think they're going to have all types of lengths for this. I just generally believe that you're going to have the mid-range. But then where it gets a little bit interesting is for the Nuxia, because she is using twin hooks, and they look like dual type swords, which is exactly what they are, but they are very, very unique. They were created by Buddhist monks who are typically quite passive, but when they were getting attacked, they created weapons of their own. So this is entirely a weapon of their own design. Basically what it is that as an exotic Chinese weapon, is associated with northern styles. It has 4 killing styles, which is why I believe this is going to be a mid to long range, possibly even short range. Maybe the Nuxia is going to be a one size fits all kind of a deal. So, the back acts like a normal sword, but then you have hooks which can be slashing and catching, maybe used for grabbing. The end of the hilt is shaped like daggers, so they can drive downwards with quite extreme force. And then there is a crescent guard for blocking and parrying, and then even attacking itself. Basically every single part of this weapon is a weapon, much like how any normal sword is. You know, it's like when you just look at if you take a warden's longsword, the blade is not the only weapon. The hilt is much as the hilt is much of a part of the weapon as the weapon itself. It's still usable, it deals a lot of damage. When you look at the murder strokes on the execution, that type of a deal, I think you could see that coming back for the Nuxia. But also the idea that both of the hooks can be joined, and then that can be swung to create an even, when you just think of the force that goes into that, the inertia behind it, there's a lot of energy. Bearing in mind these hooks were mostly used on enemies that had very little armor. Obviously the game is going to compensate from that, but you get an idea that if you hook 2 weapons together and then you create sort of a fling, an overhead swing, is going to have a lot of damage behind it. When you look at heavy curved weapons, the idea that what makes them so dangerous is the weight behind it. This adds more weight to that weapon and will create range at the same time. Sort of like how the shinobi can reach across with his chained weapon, he can reach. I think the Nuxia is going to be doing something similar, if not the same. Now also this trailer talks about, well, it doesn't talk about, but it explains to us that there are going to be enhanced textures. Now I have seen some of the pictures and it does seem to be doing something with the weather, making the clouds a little bit darker. But I believe what these are going to be is that on the trailer it says work in progress 4K textures. So I believe that's what these textures are for, and possibly to work alongside the PS4 Pro and sort of consoles to that level, and for PC gamers. I think they will be looking at much more superior graphics for 4K resolution. That's my theory on what the textures are for. Okay, and finally I just want to talk about the new PvP mode, which is not in the trailer that I have looping for you here, but I've taken a look at it and you can see bits of it in the trailer for these Chinese warriors, and that is called Breach. Now my theory on this is that it's obviously 4v4, that much I know, and it's definitely going to be objective based. That's just, you know, the idea that so the attackers are sieging a fort and the defenders have to defend. That's how that works. I believe that the defenders and the attackers will both be utilizing siege weapons. So you see, when the warden in the trailer is kind of having her final moments and walking through the battlefield, she walks past a ram, and then you can see a conqueror utilizing a hot coals, sort of like a lava pit, and it looks like that he is dropping that on top of the ram itself. From the trailers, there are also ballistas, which we have seen in the game before, but this looks to be a lot bigger. But then also itself, the 1v1 aspect that the trailer portrays is, I believe, how the game is going to work. So I believe each hero will have their own path to cut through so if, like, when the attackers finally infiltrate the fortress, they will each take a different path. That will create a 1v1 aspect, so each defender would have to choose a mirroring path in order to face. It could be elimination, which I'm not too sure, because it did show the Lord, which is the ultimate goal for the attackers. Basically what they have to do is to siege and kill the Lord. The defenders have to defend their Lord, so it might be interesting to see how that pans out, if that's going to be like a best of 3, a best of 5, sort of like what Ubisoft have done for Rainbow Six, the siege tactics in that. Maybe we could be seeing something similar for For Honor, which I'm not saying no to, because you see on my channel I play Dominion quite a lot, and it's called objective based, but it's sort of surreptitious in that, sure, you have the objectives to take, but it's not very objective based when the ultimate goal is to just kill the heroes. It's not whoever's taken the most objectives or whoever's held them the longest, which would be interesting if that's how Dominion worked. But I believe that lost, what Dominion lost, I believe, is what this Breach is going to have in its stead. Do I have anything else? Siege weapons ultimately looks like elimination. That's what I am thinking. Once the attackers breach, I believe the elimination takes place. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes with the minions, because I remember watching the alpha for Honor, and they were talking about like objective-based games and stuff like that, and it showed sort of like what you do in the trailer when you push your minions forward to take objectives. I was kind of hoping that that's kind of like how every single objective you take in Dominion would sort of function like that, but only one objective zone kind of functions like that, where you have to take one, but the minions take it, not you. So sort of like how the players sort of take A and C, but the minions take B, sort of something like that. Hoping that Breach can add to that and actually make it something so like it's not just killing the players, like sure, once you get to the elimination, kill the players, but make it so that the elimination can go either way, not just by who's getting the most kills, because if you kind of just want to kill the player, then you might as well just play the team deathmatches or the brawls or just something like that, because Dominion is very niche. It's very chaotic sometimes. It can be completely one-sided, it can be 50-50. It just depends on if you're playing for a team that's playing players, like simply just to outnumber the opponent and to get the quick executions, or if you're playing with a team or against a team who is actively like putting two people on A and then two people on C, and then having one person from each group oscillate from B and then back to A or C, which is kind of how I see it. It's kind of like a mixed bag. You get a little bit of everything. I like the 1v1s in Dominion just because it creates a bit of fun. I think the pressure could be on in Breach for the 1v1 if you get the 1v1, but you know you're kind of on your own. So it's going to be fun for those who like to have the objective but then to also play the man when that becomes your objective. Anyway guys, that's my little thoughts and views. I don't know yet what the new faction is going to be called, or how it's going to affect the faction map and the faction wars that go on in the background for the game. If they're going to divide that map into quadrants, maybe divide what the Vikings and the Samurai have and mix it up so that there are now going to be 4 factions. Am I going to switch from the Knights to join this new faction? I don't know, because I kind of like my sigils. I do like my sigils, and I wouldn't want them ruined, but it would be very interesting to see, because obviously I'm not winning much as a knight. It always seems to come down to the Vikings or the Samurai. I don't think this new faction will get the following, but you could see some people change sides, maybe. I don't know. It's definitely fun. It was definitely something I was considering, thinking like, would they ever add a new faction, because they always seem to add like 2 new heroes for every season, which I still think some of them need to be nerfed. Hint hint, shaman. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, an entire new faction I didn't think would be something that would actually happen. I thought it would take a lot longer. Maybe the idea of the game being out for maybe like 5 years, coming on some kind of anniversary. Although I think March next year would obviously be 2 years, maybe 3 if I'm wrong. It came out in 2017, right? So it's only been a year and a bit for 6 seasons. So that's pretty interesting. So for the 7th season, you're going to see an entire new faction with 4 new heroes. So there's going to be a lot to get used to. I'm definitely interested to see how each of the new warriors play, and I am definitely going to try out the new Breach gameplay once that releases. So yeah, if any of you guys have any comments, any ideas on what Breach is going to entail, or if anyone has any other information about the new faction, about the new warriors, I would love to see that in the comments down below. And yeah, I just thought I'd bring this to you guys because I didn't see this come up much during E3, because apparently that's when this dropped. The trailer had been out for 2 weeks. I had not seen it at all, which was kind of shocking for me, because I was looking at E3 and I'm kind of shocked that I didn't see this. Anyway guys, I am going to leave you now, and have a very nice day. Please, if anyone has any more information, please feel free to drop them in the comments to let other people know. Thank you guys, have a nice day.